Welcome to the viewing room where we talk about film.
I can't poop in strange places. I can only poop in my home.
This is such an old bit. I'm so tired of this.
Watched by strange faces.
I'm so tired of it. Why do you find it so funny? Why do you find it so funny?
I've left Stewie alone with strangers to satisfy my...
All right. Now that I successfully got us another copyright strike, we're good.
Okay.
All right.
Welcome to the viewing room where we talk.
And now time for The Viewing Room with Adam and Ethan.
Welcome to the viewing room where we talk about films new and old, local and global. Today we're going to be talking about Gladiator 2. It had a budget of supposedly 165 million, turned into almost 300 million as I found out, and it came out November 22nd, 2024, or today as we're recording this.
Wait, it came out today?
The official
But we
release
watched
date
it
is
but we watched it last
yeah,
night.
so opening night's last night, but the opening day, the actual release date is today, right? You can
Gotcha.
go to the early whatever screenings, whatever first showings, and then now today's the full day, whatever. Projected to make about 60 million by the end of the weekend, that's a very rough estimate. So not a horrible opening weekend by any means, but again, we're coming close to that $300 million threshold. It's going to be a tight one maybe for this movie because we also just had Wicked or whichever movie just came out, and so that might be pushing this box office to be whatever. It's in second place, followed closely.
I never want to see a movie flop,
Okay.
but I think that this one needs to not be a smashing success because...
Gladiator 2.
Yes, because then we will end up with Gladiator 3
Yes.
and 4
Yes.
and 5.
And we're going to talk about why that might be the case.
Yes.
Starring Pedro Pascal, Paul Mescal, Joseph Quinn, and Denzel Washington.
Yes.
To name a few. Denzel Washington does a great job in this
Yes.
film, of course.
Oh, yeah, I would say he's probably the best one.
He kisses a dude in the movie. Well, there's a few kisses, but he actually kisses someone on the lips, but they cut that from the film. And he was actually pretty upset about that because he was like, the world isn't ready, I guess. And,
No, I think it was the Roman Empire at the time wasn't ready for that.
yeah. And directed by Ridley Scott, who is, of course, 86 years old right now.
Yeah.
Probably 87, in a couple days, hey? By the
I don't
time
know.
this comes out.
He's old. At that age,
8 days from now,
age,
so-
1 year doesn't really make that much of a difference, I don't think.
There's no signs of him slowing down. He just came out with, he did Napoleon, hey?
I don't know.
I think he did Napoleon, and then now he's coming out with Gladiator 2. I don't know, man. 86, that's pretty incredible. Say what you will, whether
it
you
is.
like his movies or not. That does speak in a lot of ways to some of the passion and some of the drive. I mean, it's not easy to direct a movie. I mean, maybe it's a little easier when you're already an established director and people just kind of know you and you have your set
know what
team
you're doing,
and
and-
you have money. But
That's the other important thing. You don't have to be as hands-on when you have that money and influence.
Sure. But at the end of the day, you're still directing the movie, right?
Right. It is, yeah, for sure.
I think that is pretty remarkable. I mean, Clint Eastwood does that kind of stuff too, right? But I think those are kind of two of the most notable people.
Right, for sure.
John Williams even for score, right? Yeah, I don't know. I guess we can do a synopsis and plot and stuff like that. Do you have anything you want to say?
Let's do the synopsis and then we'll get into our opening because I think we're both on the same page with a lot of this. And
Yeah. Okay. Gladiator synopsis. Okay. From legendary director Ridley Scott, Gladiator 2 continues the epic saga of power, intrigue, and vengeance set in ancient Rome. Years after witnessing the death of the revered hero Maximus, played by Russell Crowe at that movie, at the hands of his uncle Lucius, Paul Mescal is forced to enter the Colosseum after his home is conquered by the tyrannical emperors who now lead Rome with an iron fist. So after Maximus's death, things didn't go perfect, and now we have Gladiator 2, and now Maximus's son can try and do the same thing with hopefully a different outcome, right? With rage in his heart and the future of the Empire at stake, Lucius must look into his past to find strength and honor to return the glory of Rome to its people. Now, I think this is a good movie. Like, I think it's a solid movie for me, and it's.
I'm gonna put a caveat on that.
I think it's a solid movie. Has a lot of potential, awesomeness, whatever, but it makes
It's the same movie.
It's the same movie.
That's for me
Yeah,
what it all comes down to is it is the same movie and they
Yeah.
tried to disguise it as a sequel by making some the characters different, but it's still a remake.
Yeah.
Like there was absolutely zero surprises.
No,
You
that's,
could predict
that's not
everything.
True. That's not true.
Yeah, that is true.
For the most part, we know what's going to happen at the end, but there was some surprising things. Like there was some cool stuff that was like still
Yeah, but not
creative and shock factor.
Yes, but is that
the rhino
Yeah,
scene? Dude,
okay,
that's so
but
cool.
that takes the place of the tiger, right?
Yeah,
or
but, yes,
like
it
even
is
those
a remake.
even
yes.
those things, right? Like the sharks are kind of like the tiger. The rhino and the dude is the same as the one with like the like the lion and the crying mask. Though actually that was I caught that in the opening battle scene. There's somebody wearing that same mask on one of the ships.
Oh, that's cool.
But yeah, it was a remake, and to me, in terms of the plot, there was no surprises. There was some interesting things, but it was the generalities of the plot were the exact same throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, like one thing I'll say right now, like in Gladiator 1, they take back the capital, right, or attempt to, but Marcus Aurelius's, but Maximus's troops never come. They're
True.
still gone. In this movie, the troops come, but they never fight.
Right.
Right? So we get to see all those troops, which is awesome, but they never show them fighting or anything like that, which, you know what, like maybe they didn't need to. It was a good moment at the end of the movie, but I think it was probably about a third of the way in. I leaned over to you in the theater and I whispered, "This feels like a remake, not a sequel." And you were like, "Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
And
Right.
yeah, I think that sums up this movie perfectly.
Well, and like I thought, like, oh, this is going to be good because the opening credits, they had like the kind of painted stop time animation recap of the first movie, which I really liked. That was great. So like, you know, refreshing your memory, even though we just watched Gladiator 1 a few weeks ago, so it's pretty fresh in our memories. But refresh your memory, and then yeah, I'm like, okay, so they're gonna continue 16 years later, you know, and like, all right, we're in the future. We're in the future. We're in the future still, but it's
Right.
like
I think the biggest problem this film has, for me, I would have loved this film more if I hadn't seen Gladiator 1.
exactly.
And the biggest problem it has is that it makes Maximus's sacrifice
Right.
feel less important.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe we should talk about that after the plot. Let's talk about the plot because it's
Why
so
do we need to?
similar.
We did.
I think
if you watch the Gladiator
if you
1
watch
episode,
Gladiator
you know
1,
the
you
plot.
know what's going to happen. But we have Lucius, who obviously is the son of Maximus.
Yes.
And son of Lucilla.
Yeah.
We see him at the end of Gladiator 1. He helps carry Maximus's body away, whatever. He's the Prince of Rome. He's cast away because Rome is being taken over. New leadership, obviously. Something went wrong in the transfer of power between Maximus dying and the Senate taking over and another emperor coming in, right? Whatever. Even though the heir to the throne would have been Lucius, but whatever.
Yeah.
Lucius gets cast out. He becomes a gladiator. He fights in the rings. We have some cool scenes where we see a rhino battle. There's a battle with rhinos,
That's one
trained
thing-
rhinos, which is so cool. It's
Yeah.
so cool.
That's one
man.
thing we did say.
I love it.
In this movie, they did better was changing the arena. In the first one, the arena never really changed. It was all kind of the same. But in this one, they had like the water scene, and they had
have the boats, and the boats
yeah.
in this movie look
Yeah.
fantastic. I got to tell you, like, I love the way they did that. Now,
Well, okay, I liked them, but I didn't like what they did with them in the opening scene. The way they came right up to the wall. That was the
Yes.
dumbest shit ever. Because then later
it doesn't
they
seem-
had to
that
wait
doesn't
out to
seem very
the
smart.
later they had to wait out to the boat to get to it because they didn't want it. But like they even showed the shot of it ramming right up on the ground. You're gonna snap your keel like that. Like it's
well, not only that, if I was like defending my castle, and there was someone with a boat that just smashed into my wall, I would just like toss a Molotov, like
right,
over the
right.
over the.
Well, and the other thing in that scene, that
edge.
you know, General Acacius, he's running, and you know he's like, all right, I'm gonna lead the charge. And you know how like he was going up through that ladder thing, right? And a bunch of guys they were shooting arrows through that, and so a bunch of guys had already died. So he has his helmet on, and as he's going through that, he pulls his helmet off.
He takes his helmet off. Yeah, it doesn't make any
What?
sense. It's so we can see his gorgeous locks. But
Okay, but
you know what?
like-
I've done that in Bannerlord. Okay, so I can't even. I can't even decline. I've played Bannerlord and I've done that before. Literally, all you got to say is hold the line, and my heart just starts beating. I'm like, yes.
Are you not entertained?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it makes Maximus's death feel less important. but
Absolutely.
Whatever. There's also some other cool scenes in the Gladiator pit. A lot of it's essentially the same or very similar hero's journey to Maximus. Only I think they've put parts of Maximus and Pedro Pascal's character, Marcus Acacius, and Lucius's character, because I think Lucius has that anger and sparse, like the fear, wants to take down Rome, right? Which obviously his father Maximus had that kind of that passion and fury and whatnot. But Pascal's character is kind of like he wants to take over Rome with the army, which is something that Maximus wanted to do, but he never got the option to, right? So they're both trying to bring the power back to the people. They're doing it in different ways. Lucius thinks that Acacius is not a good guy, even though he really is, and trying to do this thing. Because obviously he ordered the person to kill his wife, whatever. Not knowing the things he did then. Obviously, he was also more of a supporter and for the Roman Empire, and he gets fed up with the twins. But
Well, he kind of has the same, like you say, like, I mean, what is kind of Acacius's instigating incident in a way is he comes home and he says to his wife, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I'm done fighting. Well, what does Maximus do in the first movie? The exact
he does the same thing. He wants a break.
He wants a break.
He wants a break.
Yeah, so it's
Right.
very, like you say, they've almost split it slightly between two characters.
I think they put in traits into both characters, and like they divided it into two separate people.
Yeah.
But Paul Mescal's journey, or Mescal, I don't, whatever. Lucius is kind of going through that same thing that Maximus went through, and then Acacius is kind of going through some of that.
He's
some
in a
of
way
that-
he's
some of that other
almost
stuff.
like who's the advisor in it's the Gladiator, like the citizen that buys Maximus in the first one.
Oh,
Because he starts off as kind of being the villain.
Yeah.
But then he kind of, in the end, is kind of the good guy,
sure.
which is similar to Acacius. And then Denzel Washington's character, we expect to be kind of the good guy in a way, like at the end, like taking over that character. But then pretty quickly it becomes obvious that it's not.
Yeah, it's like Denzel's
He's
character
almost
plays
like
both
Commodus.
sides
Yeah.
in this film in a way where you think at the start he's acting in all the best interests of Paul Mescal, although it's
It's in his interest as well.
it's in his interest as well.
Yeah.
It's not great for like Lucilla and Marcus.
Yeah.
But it definitely is better for Lucius that way.
And honestly, that's one of my biggest problems in this movie is, I mean, he's the main villain. He takes the role of Commodus, trying to seize power. But
I don't think he feels like that much of a villain.
But while in a way he does, in a way he doesn't. But to me, the biggest problem is his motivation is completely unclear. Like it seems like he just kind of changes willy nilly, and I don't know. I didn't feel clear on why he did most of what he did, beyond the first part of buying and training Lucius.
Yeah, well, I think he sees a lot of money and like esteem. What's the word I'm looking for? Like amongst the people, like notability among the people, right?
Yeah.
And then I think he realizes that things are so shaky right now between the people that he kind of sees a place that might be able to do a coup.
But then he wants
take
to
over.
he wants to topple Rome. Like this is where I don't understand. So the one point he's like, in what place can a slave rise to from to running an empire? Basically, he says like what place but Rome. But then
Right.
he's like, I want to topple Rome, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't. That's where I don't understand what his motivation and what his end goal is, because it seems like he wants the power, but then you topple the emperor or the empire, and now you have power over nothing.
I mean, I don't know. I think maybe he just wants something different. Like I don't know.
Well, yeah, but that's the problem is I don't know. I should still be clear as to what, like, you think of any good movie villain and you know what their motivation is.
You know what? I'm gonna be honest. I genuinely think I'd probably have to watch that part again.
Yeah.
Just because he does play both sides for so long, and he's like maybe evil in that sense where he's lying and doing that, whatever, political espionage, whatever. But I don't know.
But see, that to me, the fact that you say that, like, oh, I should watch it again to figure that out, that's not good. Like your character motivations, like your kind of outside. I don't know. You don't have to be like specific on every action, but just their overall goal and what they're trying to achieve should be relatively clear.
I'm just trying to. I'm trying to remember. Like it was clear that he is like a bad guy in some sense, but I thought the twins seemed more like actual bad guys because for the most part he does seem like he's acting in the interest of our main characters, and for the better part of the film, and then all of a sudden he takes over, right? But like the one major problem is solved, and then obviously he kills Lucilla and other stuff. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's tough for me. Like, it's like, I mean, I don't know, man. Like, I'm trying to think what else happens. There's the monkey battle.
Oh yeah, those
that's
monkeys.
Like the first one.
The very first
They look
apes.
so
They're so
weird.
stupid.
They're scary.
They're scary, but this is supposed to be a semi-realistic movie.
Yeah, so
and
those types of monkeys, if they're depicted properly, because Ridley Scott got the idea for that scene based on a tourist getting attacked in South Africa by by a monkey.
I have never seen a monkey that looks like that in my entire life.
He came up with that idea. So historically inaccurate, yes, because the types of monkeys in that film are South African monkeys. By that time in the Roman Empire, they had just
Not
got
even
the very
South African monkeys.
northern tip of Africa. There wouldn't have been those kind of monkeys or monkeys like that.
However, I've never seen a monkey that looks like that. That was a weird ass monkey.
They're like shaped like dogs almost. Yeah,
and their face shape looks more like a Great Dane or something almost, but with like huge jaws and some human facial features. It was
really cool though. I thought it was cool, but they look kind of dumb. They look dumb.
Yeah, well, that was the problem with me. It was like if this was a more of a fantasy movie, then great. I would have liked it. It would have been great. But it's not supposed to be a fantasy movie.
See,
and
there's my problem because I'm sitting there in the theater. Hell yeah, kill that monkey! And
I wanted to kill the thing, but
yeah, and he's like he bites the monkey, and it's like, and
that was a really good monkey impression. That was a
he's
great
not going to
monkey
be able to get Ryan.
Yeah, Network Ryan's trying to actually do Network Ryan things, and it's not working for him.
You can walk across the cameras. It's fine.
Do you want to come talk about Gladiator 2?
Yeah, come up here. Have you seen Gladiator 1?
No. Yes, I have.
Yeah, come up here.
No.
Let's talk.
Gary just walked in.
Oh my gosh.
Gary's back. Okay. No politics, no religion.
Oh boy. No. So, I guess Lucilla is kind of trying to plot to free Lucius because she notices that, oh wait, this might be my son.
She's about the only repeat character.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, there's some senators and stuff like that.
That's true. There is the one senator, but she's the only repeat main character.
I do think that Lucilla, although Lucius is mad at her, I do think Lucilla is kind of in the right here. He was trying to free him from death and stuff like that by sending him away. Well, he doesn't really understand that. Then he immediately understands it after Victor Pascal is killed. I don't love that.
That was a really weird part because it was like she comes to visit him in his cell, and you're like, oh yay, we're gonna get this this great mother son reunited moment, and then he's like, I don't know who you are, and I don't have a mother, and blah 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 blah, right? And then they get in the ring, and he's about to kill Acacius, and Acacius is like, your mother and I would die for you. And then he's like, he screams at the audience and whatnot. This is what the Roman Empire does to its heroes. And then they kill Acacius. Like it just, and then all of a sudden he's all lovey-dovey with his mom again. It's like,
yeah,
what?
Yeah, it's interesting because like. Lucius wants the head of Marcus because he killed his wife.
Acacius.
Marcus Acacius.
Oh, right, yeah.
but Marcus Acacius is married to Lucilla, his mom. And so Lucius demands to kill Marcus, right? And does so by getting to the ring and getting him in the ring. And so Marcus Acacius, though, is trying to break him out and stage a coup because he's like, wait, no, like I'm actually a good guy and I'm really sorry for your wife and I hate Rome now and like we want the power to be back to the people, like whatever. So they're on the same side. They don't know that until they get into the ring, which I like. I think that's cool. I actually think it would have been more compelling if instead they team up and fight and Pedro Pascal doesn't actually die till closer to the end.
Yeah.
And that makes it feel more powerful because it's like his father-in-law now, and he finally has like a father figure.
Right.
I think that is actually a little bit more compelling.
Yeah, I could see that.
Because although Pedro Pascal's death is sad, it's like, you know.
Yeah, it doesn't quite have the same emotional impact because we don't have quite the attachment to him yet. But seeing him team up with the main character, you're like, all right, we got the team, we're going to win.
And then they arrow him to death. And up until this point, Lucius hates Marcus, and he's finally in solidarity with him. And he's like, okay, perfect. We're gonna bring back power to the people. He's hated his mom up at this point. He's like called her names, done whatever, cast her away, being like, I hate you. I hate what you've done. Do not speak to me. I'm no longer your son. Marcus Acacius goes, by the way, I don't know what kind of act. Like, I wasn't an accent. I don't know what I was trying to say. I was trying to like dying guy.
Dying voice.
Yeah, like
just do a Joe Biden voice and then it'll work.
I was smelling him. No, no. He looks at Lucius and he's like, I love your mom. What crazy thing to say. He's like, I'm in love with your mother. I would die for her. And he doesn't explain the plot with all the soldiers, right? That someone else has to explain that to him later. But he's like, I would die for you and I'd die for Rome and your mom loves you. And then he's murdered. And Lucius all of a sudden, after wanting to kill this guy for the whole movie, he's like, no, wait, hold on a second. We can't be doing that. And then he goes, gives his mom a big hug. Like, it's like, okay, hold on a second. That happened too quick in my opinion. Because the whole movie, like, he's on the verge of like almost killing his own mother. Like he's hurting her.
Yeah.
And it's not, it doesn't paint his character in a good light. Obviously, he's angry for sure. But the fact that he just gets over it so quick after being cast away and being sad for 16 years, it's like, okay, but like, why? Like, why did it happen like that? And also, I think that comes like a bigger problem too, is because it makes Maximus's death feel like it wasn't mattered because all of a sudden, 16 years later, there's bad emperors and stuff like that. So now in this movie, we're expected that Lucius is going to do what Maximus, the same exact thing Maximus did, but now all of a sudden it's going to work. So what are you going to tell me? In 25 years when Gladiator 3 comes out, did Lucius not succeed? And now we have Marcus Maximus Caesar the Ninth, and he's like Magnum Opus Coronicus the Third fighting him. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I agree. The only difference I can see is that in this one Lucius lives, whereas in the other one Maximus dies. So theoretically, he's going to be able to take charge.
But part of Maximus's sacrifice was that he had lost everything. He lost his wife.
Right.
He lost his kids. He was espresso depresso. He'd finally killed his biggest enemy. And things were looking up, but he falls and dies because he doesn't have anything left. He's died for what he believes in. Perfect sacrifice. He can go to the afterlife with his wife and kids. And then all of a sudden, the people now know what Marcus Aurelius wanted for them, right?
Yeah,
And so that's great. In this film, Lucius loses his wife. He's very distraught. Everything sucks. Whatever. He loses his friends, his mentors. But he survives. So none of the reasons for him, like what reason does he have to go on? Okay, maybe he does want to restore power to people and he's a good guy, whatever. But his mom is dead. His stepdad's dead. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You see what I mean? So yes, he is alive, but like, I think part of what made Maximus such a great character and his death being there is like, oh, hey, like this guy had not much to live for, right? And he didn't take it laying down. Like he fought to the very end for the stuff that he did have to live for. And then when that was gone, he was like, okay, fine, I can go rest with my wife.
Yeah, right. And that was the other big thing is that he did want to just go rest with his wife and kid, not. And I mean, Lucius has his wife, Again, you expect him to die because
Well, his main motivation is he wants to kill the Marcus Acacius who killed his wife.
he wants
by doing
revenge,
that-
right? He
But
wants
getting the revenge. And then that's the first half of the movie, and Marcus dies, and he's like, "Oh, okay, now I'm a hero." But it's like, okay, I get it. You want
Yeah.
your freedom. You want to restore Maximus because Maximus was really inspiring. Because Ravi, or was it Ravi? Is that the guy's name?
Yeah.
Showed you his burial site and whatnot.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, my father is actually a hero, and I should
Yeah.
be like him.
Well, like you say though, like it kind of adds to the story because the end of Gladiator 1 was, like you say, Maximus killing his opponent.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like takes the which is Commodus. In this one, it's Acacius basically, right?
Sure.
So Acacius is dead. They've that is moot. They've figured that out. And then, like you say, his motivation just all of a sudden changes. That's the point. It's where his feelings towards his mother change. It's where his ultimate goal changes. It's where everything just changes. And it doesn't feel like, again, it comes back to me, there's no motivation for it. It feels like this story lacks clear explanation of motivation.
Yes. Obviously, Macrinus, played by Denzel, kills Lucilla, kills Marcus Acacius.
Kills the one emperor.
Yes. That's kind of easy to sum it up. So we know Marcus Acacius has summoned his troops to Rome, from wherever they are. Starts with an A, I think.
To know.
An O?
Oshia?
I don't know. There's somewhere. There's troops
Yeah.
somewhere. 5,000 loyal to him, and now they're going to be loyal to Lucius, because whatever. But I mean,
'Cause he says
Lucius sends out the word and stuff like that
Yeah.
they're going to be for him on the orders of Marcus Acacius.
But there's 6,000
That doesn't-
Praetorians, so.
That doesn't bug me too much actually. That plot, why they'd be whatever, because he's the son of Maximus, whatever.
Right, as long as they
Maximus would've
believe
been
that, yeah,
reviewed.
that makes sense. But then there's 6,000 Praetorians in their way, so.
Yeah, and I would believe that a Praetorian Guard is of higher status and whatnot than
I would think so,
than
yeah.
one of those. I would imagine Praetorian Guard is worth two of those guys. Like in
At
my
least, yeah.
opinion, and they're also have the disadvantage because they're fighting uphill, and they're fighting Rome. Really, no matter how you looked at it, like.
They weren't going to win.
All Denzel had to do would be like, okay, guys, go murder them. And then,
Right,
like,
yeah, but
and
no,
then-
he has to ride out and be the.
Why don't they have fucking battle rhinos? Think of how cool battle rhinos
Yeah,
would
but can you imagine how fucking expensive a battle rhino would be? Just one, never mind a dozen.
I mean, who cares? It's a battle rhino. You wouldn't need more than one or two. Dude, I'm telling you, if I'm sitting there with my like AR, actually an AR versus a rhino actually seems like a fair fight actually.
Yeah.
I don't know. Would it be
You know
a fair
the
fight?
the elephants in Lord of the Rings, Ryan? The elephants in Lord of the Rings?
Yeah.
You know how huge they are? That's one thing I liked in this movie, is that they were actually proportionately accurate.
The elephants in Lord of the Rings is probably actually, in my opinion, the goofiest part.
It's so
of
fucking
Return of the
hilarious.
King or whatever.
Yeah, it's the dumbest shit ever.
I don't get me wrong. I think it's cool, but it is pretty goofy.
Yeah, it's
It is-
goofy.
like the rhinos in this movie. It's goofy, but like at the same time, it's like hell yeah. Like we're
Well, but
watching a
it's
guy
a-
fight a rhino. Like that's pretty
It
cool.
is a little more realistic in a way, though, because, like I said, the rhinos are of a more similar size. There's only one
They wouldn't
rhino.
be able to capture a rhino like that.
Maybe.
Roman times.
I
Probably
don't.
not.
Maybe.
I don't know.
It's pretty crazy things.
I don't know. I've never seen someone ride a rhino before. I think it would be pretty cool. I try to stay off the Zootopia Reddit. Yeah. That's a little bit of a Reddit joke for you guys. I hate this job. So I guess I don't know. The troops start to come. We know that Denzel Washington's character Macrinus has kind of staged a plot to put the emperors against each other, because after the death of Marcus Acacius, the people are furious. They're like, hold on a second, this guy was the head general, much like Maximus, who fought for Rome and expanded our empire, and now hold on a second, we're killing him just like this, and he's a traitor all of a sudden. What happened? So they're calling for the emperor's head, so he turns the emperors against each other, gets the one, Joseph Quinn gets killed, or kills the other guy, and Joseph Quinn is the new emperor. I think that one's Joseph Quinn, right?
I can't tell them apart.
I can't, like, They look awesome, man. And
Yeah,
I think Joseph
like even
Quinn,
just like the way they did the makeup around the eyes to make them look like slightly sickly and like
can I tell you
unwell.
something? I knew Joseph Quinn was in this movie. And at the end of the movie, I was like, who did Joseph Quinn play?
Yeah,
The fact, because every time I saw Pedro Pascal, and I hate to say this, I think he felt a little bit out of place. He grew on me. And I think he did a good job. A lot of the film, every time I saw Marcus Acacius, I was like, oh, that's Joel from The Last of Us. I couldn't tell any of them was Joseph Quinn, and I think he's a great actor. And I was surprised and I was shocked when I was like, whoa, he was one of the twins. That's awesome, right? And I don't know, Paul Mescal did a great job. And I think Pedro Pascal, he's a fantastic actor.
I love his voice.
I love him. I love his voice. It felt out of place, but it actually grew on me. It did grow on me. It took a bit, but once I got over the fact that I was like looking at Joel from The Last of Us and the Roman said it, I was like, it was good. And I think because he has such a distinct voice and such a distinct face, right? But I think he did a great job as well. Obviously Pedro Pascal and Joseph Quinn, this is their first film together, but they're both cast as Reed Richards and Johnny Storm in next year's Fantastic Four movie, which is being shot right now. So they're working on 2 movies together. Cool fact, right?
Yeah,
The emperors have turned on each other. The one emperor has his pet monkey.
And then gets elected as like one of the
gets-
consulates. I love
He
that.
gets elected as the first advisor of the emperor, which I think is the funniest part of this
it's
whole film.
freaking
I think
hilarious.
this is the funniest part in any of Ridley Scott's movies that I've ever seen, like Napoleon or other stuff like that. I don't know. The whole theater thought it was hilarious. I was cracking up, man, like audible laugh the whole time because he elects his pet monkey to be his advisor, and they hold like a parade and more Colosseum battles. And I don't know, man, it was so funny.
Yeah.
I'm still just smiling thinking about it because it's so ridiculous and funny.
But that's something they do, honestly. I could totally see that happening.
So, well, because you said that, I'll pull up my fact. And I'm pulling up on my phone because I didn't want to write all this down. This is from IMDb, okay? When it comes to the main characters in the film, there's a mix of those inspired by real historical figures and those who aren't. For instance, the brothers Gedda and Caracalla, played by Joseph Quinn and Fred Hitchinger, are portrayed as tyrannical co-emperors and are based on actual historic figures who ruled during the film's time frame. Historically, the brothers initially shared power with their father, Emperor Septimus Severus. After his death, they ruled jointly but were in constant conflict, ultimately leading to Caracalla having Gedda killed. While the film touches on this historical event, the depiction of the murder and its aftermath is largely fictionalized. In reality, Caracalla ruled alone for 6 years after Gedda's death, and there's no historical evidence to suggest he appointed his pet monkey as his second in command, but that he did have a pet monkey. Caracalla was eventually succeeded by Macrinus, who became the first black Roman emperor. However, the real Macrinus differs significantly from the character portrayed by Denzel Washington in the movie. So, yeah. The monkey thing never happened. But I think
It's
it's
funny.
pretty, it's
It's funny,
funny
yeah.
as hell. I have one more fact if you want me to say it now.
Absolutely.
Actually, I think I have 2 more. They're both about the original script.
Okay.
You know what? Let's
Original being number 1, or
let's talk. Yeah,
original for
let's
this
talk about
movie?
number 1. Actually, let's do this first, and then we'll get to number 1.
Okay.
Sorry, Ryan.
Ryan's trying to do network things.
We have a we have a soundproof room,
Yeah.
and my guy chose to do it in the middle of the
Yeah.
studio.
Yeah. Yeah. He's whining about his leg.
Oh, someone broke his leg and can't
Yeah.
stand. Wheelchair moment. The front steps have a lot of snow to pad your computer. He's ignoring us now. Oh, okay. Let's just finish this like real quick, like the plot, because essentially, now Macrinus is now the new emperor.
Yeah.
The twins are dead.
Yeah.
The diseases in their loins, amongst other things.
Such a
Killed
great,
them.
the disease has now spread from their loins to their minds.
Yeah, there's some
Love that.
funny lines in a film that you would maybe not expect. Like, there's a lot of humor. and
Yeah.
I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, Napoleon. I'm using that as a reference because the last Ridley
Yeah.
Scott movie, but there was a lot of humor in that, as well as big battles and stuff like that, and some of the dialogue. And I don't know, I like that. It gives it some heart, in my opinion, because it's like a lot of
Yeah.
times if you take it just too serious, at a certain point, people are going to be like, okay, like we get it, right? And so,
Yeah.
although it is a serious film, there is some humor in it to kind of like also bring you back, like elevate you a bit, right? So we're not like,
Yeah.
so, it's hard. It's a hard thing to explain, but I think
It's
you get what I'm
similar
trying
in
to say.
number one too.
Yeah.
Like it's surprisingly humorous for a movie that you wouldn't expect to be humorous.
And
So yeah, he's the emperor, and
Yeah,
then the
he's the
army
emperor
gets
now.
there, and Macrinus is riding out, to kind of lead the Praetorian Guard.
Yep.
And Lucius finishes defending his mother, and
she dies.
Yeah, she dies. So he doesn't do a very good job of defending her.
Yeah, he chases after.
Yes.
He chases after Macrinus, who
Yes.
has just killed
And
Lucilla.
just killed him. Chase him out all the way to the bridge in the river, or the gate in the river.
Mhm.
They go at it. Brief struggle.
But
Lucius
the
kills
son of
Macrinus.
Maximus comes out on top.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And
That's the movie.
yeah, he has a nice big speech of like, "Hey, like,"
Let's all work together and be friends. The
Yeah.
power of friendship.
and you know what? They all hug and hold hands.
Uh-huh.
Um,
You know, this brings
Yeah.
the fight scenes. I really didn't mind the fight choreography in the first one. I thought it was good. It's good.
mhm.
I liked it better in this one. It felt kind of dirtier and grittier. I felt like the first one was a lot flashier and more
It's something like a
kind of-
lightsaber duel.
yeah,
in a
right.
way,
Like
you
it was
know?
very much like sword on sword, but this one felt more like close the gap, get a couple dirty punches in there,
Lots of more
right?
fist fighting,
fist
yeah.
fighting,
Yeah.
and just kind of dirty violence, which I feel like was more realistic, and I liked that was one of the improvements I felt that they made was making the fighting a little grittier and dirtier.
Yeah, I think they did the sword combat better in the first movie, but I agree with you that the fighting itself is done better
Yeah.
and more creative in this film, I'd say, based on the Colosseum having,
Mm-hmm.
you know, maybe we don't have chariots, right? I think the chariot scene is one of the best scenes.
Yeah, the
in
chariot scene's
Gladiator.
awesome. But we
but
have ships,
we
right?
have ships
The
and
ships kind of
rhinos
take
and
their
stuff.
place of that.
And so while a lot of the story is a remake, I am happy because if they would have had another chariot scene, if they had all the same Colosseum things as the first movie, that would have been just like disgusting. But
Yeah.
I'm very happy that although the story was extremely similar, we shook it up a bit in the Colosseum scenes, and now we
Yeah.
got to see battle rhinos and crazy monkeys
Yeah.
with rabies and orgari as we call them.
You talk about apes and everything. He's getting over there playing Smash and getting kicked by Donkey Kong.
Yeah, did you just lose to Donkey Kong?
On 9 difficulty.
He just lost to a computer.
He just lost to
He
a
lost to
computer. A computer from like when is that from? Like I don't know, the 90s.
That
This is the Network Ryan special setup. If you can beat this, you're good.
that computer has 3 kilobytes of RAM. Just so you know.
my calculator has more memory than that thing.
Oh man, I love being fired.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. Like, I'm happy they shook it up in those aspects because it was very important that they did that.
Yeah.
If they wouldn't have done that, I think it would have been almost unbearable. But I think it gets not necessarily a pass, but like it keeps it feeling a little bit more fresh.
Yeah. So that's the other thing. I felt this movie was long.
I didn't think so.
I was. I find that for me the telling factor is whether or not I check my watch in a movie. If I'm locked in enough that I don't check my watch, then that's a good sign. I checked my watch a few times during this movie, and to me that's an indicator that they didn't pace it well enough, or just I don't know. And I just felt like in this
Pacing's
movie it
very
was
quick. The scenes are short.
some scenes are, but then overall it just feels like it just takes way too long to just get where it's going. I don't know.
You know what? Like, yeah, I don't know. For me, it kind of it went by quicker. But like I said, I did feel at one part in the movie when I said to you the third way through, like, we're watching a remake right now. I did feel like kind of bored. I was like, I've seen this before.
Well, that was the other part. If it had been brand new, I probably would have been more locked in. But the fact that I'm like, okay, I know what's coming, or I was pretty sure I knew, made it less interesting. I mean, it's the same way when you watch a movie for a second time. You're generally like, and when I watch a movie for the first time, I try and watch it and like actually watch it. If I'm watching a movie or show again for another, like, the second or third or more times, I'm not as concerned about, sending a message while I'm watching it, right? Because I still know I'm not going to lose out on those details. And yeah, this one definitely felt more like I was just watching the remake. So I didn't feel like I needed to be as...
I'm like, it's tough, right?
And that's really what this whole movie comes down to for me, is that if you took this as a standalone movie, yeah, it's a good movie. It's a solid movie.
Yes.
You add in the fact that it's supposed to be a sequel, it drops it a few points.
Well, like, yeah, it's supposed to be like a sequel or remake to an Oscar-winning Best Picture film that's revered and still talked about. And while it succeeds in doing that and being a sequel or remake or whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
It's pulled back by the fact that, like, listen,
Well, and
we've seen a version of this film already.
Right.
It doesn't really matter if you've do it better or worse, because I saw this 25 years ago when you released Gladiator 1. Sorry, I saw this 2 weeks ago when I watched Gladiator 1, but the rest of the world saw it 25 years ago.
Well, and I also have a problem with the marketing. I'm fine with remakes.
Yeah.
Remakes are great. But, well, sometimes. Depends who does them. If it's Disney, then they're usually shitty.
Okay, you're throwing a fun fact there. I like
What?
it. Just throwing a fun fact there.
Yeah, definitely a fun fact. But no, I felt like this was marketed as a sequel, and it is not a sequel. And anybody who thinks it's a sequel needs to go and watch the movie again with their eyes and ears open.
It is a sequel. It's trying to be a sequel, but I think it comes off way more like a remake than a sequel. And I
It's
think
not a
that's really what it
sequel. I
comes
mean,
to.
sure, they set it up. 16 years later, the characters change. It's a remake.
There's characters, yeah. Like it's not like a direct remake or anything like that.
It is.
But like it feels like it's being remade because a lot of it is remade because they did it twice, right?
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a sequel, but it doesn't feel like a sequel.
Yeah.
Russell Crowe obviously makes an appearance through footage, right? He didn't come.
Yeah, it was just a flashback that they used from the first movie.
Yeah.
So.
Jonty Yates came back, or Jonty Yates. I don't know how you say it. I'm sorry, but
Cool.
okay.
Rate it and finish this
I have
off.
some scripts.
Oh, that's right. You had facts. More facts.
Facts, yeah. In the years following the release of the first film, there were numerous attempts to write a sequel. Okay, so this is coming before this film was released. Musician Nick Cave was invited to draft a version by Russell Crowe and Sir Ridley Scott. His version focused on the more mythical elements of ancient Rome and would have seen Maximus arrive in the afterlife, only to be faced with other souls who are yet to ascend further. So kind of like a Valhalla in a way, almost. You know what I mean? You know what Valhalla is?
You know what Valhalla is? Valhalla has nothing to do with Roman.
Yeah, but you know what? You know, like the story, the legends of Valhalla.
Yes.
Valhalla, whatever. But like that would be like the
It would be
afterlife
it would
there,
be standing in front of the fates and finding your way through the what are they called? I can't remember the name of it, but there's a thing where you lose your memory and you're just a wandering soul and yada yada yada. Anyway,
Well, I'll keep reading because you're right. He is eventually tasked by Jupiter and other Roman deities to return to Earth to find and kill Hephaestus, a former
Hephaestus.
Hephaestus,
Hephaestus.
Hephaestus, a former
It's the Greek god of like the forge.
a former deity who has betrayed them. From there, he's resurrected as a Christian and finds himself journeying back to Rome on a mission to stop Christianity from spreading while crossing paths with the new emperor, Lucius, his son. The movie would have ended with Maximus being cursed to live for an eternity, featuring a montage of the soldier battling through the Crusades, World War II, and the Vietnam War, eventually revealing a modern-day Maximus working at the Pentagon in Washington. The studio decided not to go through with this version, but the script is available to read online, according to IMDb. Now, going off of that on a different article, I think this is... What? It,
Yeah,
it
with
doesn't
some
sound
with
bad.
some tweaks, I think that could be a decent movie.
No, this is a separate. Sequel idea as well on a different website. As early as 2005, 5 years after the original film, original Gladiator screenwriter John Logan had written a draft screenplay for a sequel, set years after the first film and focusing on Lucius. It's a next generation, Scott explained to Empire. I wouldn't touch the gladiatoral side again. Roman history is so exotic that any part of it's really fascinating. At the time, however, this direction failed to find and favor at then Studio DreamWorks, who thought it simply wasn't Gladiator enough. With the project stalled, Russell Crowe himself decided to press on in a radically different direction, turning to the maverick Australian alt-rock star and sometimes screenwriter Nick Cave. The Bad Seed described the encountly thusly that Russell Crowe read the proposition and I'd heard that he liked it. I got this phone call. G'day, mate. Is Russell here? I'm like, Russell who? Russell Crowe. How's my Russell Crowe impression? Is it good? It's not deep enough. He's like, I'm like to my wife, it's fucking Russell Crowe's. He says, are you still interested in writing scripts? I said, no, mate, I don't want to do that. He says, what about writing Gladiator 2? And then so the guy's like, yeah, all right. And I said, this is written weird, but he's like, so I said, didn't you die in Gladiator 1 then? Why would you want to do Gladiator 2? And Russell Crowe goes, you sort that out, mate. It was a really bad Russell Crowe impression, but yeah, Russell Crowe was like, kind of just like, figure it out. You're a screenwriter. You decide why I didn't die. But yeah, that's kind of Russell Crowe really wanted a sequel, but he wasn't too interested in this one.
Because he's dead.
Yeah, and people kept asking him questions, and he was kind of sick of it. The sets and costumes are awesome.
Same
Obviously.
designer, right?
Yep, same designer. It's cool. It's awesome. You know what you're getting, right?
Music is not as memorable.
Music's not.
It wasn't bad at all,
Um,
but it was not as good as the first one. And the reason for that is the first one was Hans Zimmer, and this one isn't.
Yeah. The other fact I have, and it's more of a personal fact, Lucius is called Janus at the start of the film. Janus is depicted as a two-faced god, right?
Yep.
This is interesting to me because I made a short film called Mr. Janus. And you were part of the crew for that film.
And I was
And an
I was the lead
actor.
actor.
Well, let's not get ahead of
I had the
ourselves.
most
You were
important-
an actor. You
I
were
had
an
the
actor.
most important role in the entire movie, and if you argue with that, you didn't watch the film that you made.
You were an actor.
I played the janitor.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was very important.
You were very important. So, anyways,
And then I did a bunch of editing for you.
that's true. I have a picture that I'm very fond of you sitting in my gaming chair, just like editing while we eat popcorn. It's pretty fun.
Those gunshots worked out pretty well. I was happy with how
They
they
did.
turned
Yeah,
out.
you did a good job. But yes, I made the short film Mr. Janus based off of my character, who I wanted to sound mysterious, but also be two-faced, because essentially he is
Right.
two-faced. So
Yeah.
Janus was used on Lucius in this example as like to be both a gladiator but also the Prince of Rome, right? So that he could have like
Yeah.
two different sides to him. And yeah, I don't know. So I thought that was cool because obviously we both did Mr. Janus,
Yeah.
and that's the same way they got their name from this here is how we got it for ours. And I don't know.
Janus is an interesting god when you read about him.
Yeah, depicted as having two faces.
Yeah, he was the two-faced god.
Yes.
Cool.
I don't know. Like overall,
Yeah, I feel like this one needs to be a shorter review because, as we've said, I mean, I think a lot of our problems that we had in one would apply to this movie as well, just because they're very similar. So
yeah, I mean,
they improved on some things were worse. I think overall they kind of cancel out, like in terms of
yeah, I can't
improvements
say
and-
this
and
is better
this-
than one
No.
or worse than one, because everything that it does better in terms of creativity,
it does
is-
something worse elsewhere.
and it's already something that was maybe not necessarily done in terms of combat, but the essential story was already done in Gladiator, right?
Yeah.
So it's like just going wild with an already good thing. So I enjoyed it. I think it has good fights, good action, good performances. If I hadn't seen the first movie, I would have liked this movie better.
Oh, absolutely. I think
Because
that's
the
key.
whole time I was like, I'm just watching Gladiator 1 again until the fight scenes where I'm like, okay, this is cool, right?
Yeah.
So at least it's creative and tries to do something. But again, it's the same kind of story.
I mean, overall, like
It feels like deja vu.
That's
what I wrote here.
I did not I'm not gonna say I didn't enjoy it.
Okay.
Because I liked the first one, and this was not a bad movie. However, I could not stop thinking about this is the same, and that just really turned me off.
Yeah, I did think about that a lot in
and
the
so,
theater.
And so I don't know. I guess rate it here.
Yeah, you go first.
All right, I'm 6.5.
I think I'm a 7.5.
Yeah.
I think it's fair, right? Like,
Yeah.
I spent a lot of the whole time being like, I think I've seen this before. They do a creative job with the Coliseum stuff that I think enhances it. Obviously, it looks great. It's shot fantastic. But there is some stuff that's like.
One of the other little things I noticed, like in that opening battle sequence, it really feels like the arrows and the flaming pots of oil or whatever are very like it seems like they hit everybody except important characters until his wife gets killed. Like, it just feels like they're whistling all around those main characters.
That's usually how movies work.
I know it is, but it just seemed more noticeable.
You
in
think
this
Star
one.
Wars would have been the same if Han Solo got a headshot on a Death Star?
Yeah, but it just seemed more noticeable in this movie.
Yeah, I guess so.
There's a-
Especially since he takes off his helmet in the middle
right.
of the battle.
There's a really good corridor crew where they made stormtroopers accurate, and they redid a whole bunch of Star Wars scenes with accurate stormtroopers.
Oh yeah,
It's
funny.
hilarious.
That's funny.
Anyway,
Yeah. That's kind of all we have. Give a shout out to Kale in the booth for producing this episode. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. My lovely brother will tag him in the episode. So thanks, buddy. Thanks for this. It was a good conversation.
good movie.
I had a good time at the theater for what it's worth, but I
I did too because I got my lime Coke.
See, this guy gets lime Coke. It's so dumb. Cherry vanilla is where it's at. But I would say too, like, this is a movie that you don't have to go to the theaters to see.
Oh, I would not recommend seeing it in theaters. Not worth the money.
I wouldn't say it's, if you like the first one, I would say go and watch it anyways.
No.
But like,
I wouldn't say so.
you're not gonna watch this at home and be like, oh, I wish that I saw that in theater.
Right.
And I think you're gonna have the same viewing experience no matter what, right? So
Yeah.
feel free to wait for it. If you really love Roman stuff and you really love Ridley Scott and you love the Roman stuff, you're gonna like this movie, right? Some of it's not
It
historically
depends how much
accurate,
of a nerd you are.
but like, you're not gonna.
If you're a real nerd, you probably are gonna.
Right?
If you're a real Roman nerd, you're gonna nitpick it. I mean, I'm that way
going-
with, like, movie adaptations of books that I know really, really well. Like, I watched the first season of the Wheel of Time series, the adaptation of the Wheel of Time series, and I could not stop yelling at the TV for the entire thing because I had so many issues with it. So, like, if you're really into it, you're gonna hate this movie.
Well, I don't know. I had a good time, but
Yeah.
like I said, I've seen this movie. I feel like I watched Gladiator 1 remastered.
Yeah.
But
Cool.
thanks, guys, for watching the viewing room. We've had a good time. I think, what are we releasing next week? What's our
Next week
episode?
will be Jaws.
Jaws.
And
Perfect.
then we'll be getting into some Christmas stuff.
Some Christmas stuff.
And we have Django will be coming out at some point. I think
Yeah.
probably after December. That'll probably be New Year's. We release Django.
Yeah, we got to do a special birthday episode for you, hey? Because
No,
your
we
birthday's
don't.
coming up soon.
No, we don't.
We'll figure it out. Okay, well, thanks for watching The Viewing Room. Remember, we have a Patreon at Dufferin Ave Media, and we also have an Instagram at The Viewing Room _.